This morning, Russian forces are making gradual gains as they try to encircle Ukrainian fighters in Bakhmut. President Zelensky is calling it, quote, one of the toughest battles yet. Despite a Russian blitz, Ukrainian forces say that they are still holding on to a key highway in the fiercely contested city. Just a short time ago, the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said it would not be a strategic setback if Ukrainians decide to reposition in some areas to the west of Bakhmut. The town's deputy mayor telling CNN there are about 4,500 Ukrainian residents still in the city and in harm's way. So let's bring in now retired U.S. Army Major General Mike Lyons. Good morning to you. Let's focus on Bakhmut here. So the secretary is saying that it would not be a strategic setback for Ukraine if they lose this city. Is that true? And what is the significance of Bakhmut?
Yeah, I think it is true. I think the bottom line is both sides are using this battle to grind the other side down. And Ukraine's winning in that regard. They're about a 7-to-1 ratio, 7-to-1 Russia's down for 1 Ukraine. However, they still don't have enough manpower there. Here's really what's happening on the ground right now. The Russians, from what we can tell, are using a kind of envelopment to try to envelop the city here, a very kind of wide circle here. Why hasn't Russia taken it directly? And I'll tell you why. There's a river. Ukraine has used an incredible amount of obstacles in order to protect the city. There's a river that goes here that the Russians can't navigate at all. And so we can tell what either side is doing by how they drop bridges across rivers. So, for example, the Ukraine military just dropped that river, which tells me now they're retreating back into the town of Bakhmut and eventually taking this is the 504, the T504, road back to Ivanishki, let's say. But the Russians now, they drop a bridge here in Kremova. So they're trying to prevent the Ukrainians from escaping from this route there as well. So we're seeing now actually what both sides are going to do and likely where Ukraine will be able to evade Russian forces to leave the city.
So considering what you just said and how they're surrounded, how much longer do you think Ukrainian forces can hold on, Mike?
So they've got to decide how more casualties they really want to take. And both sides have been grinding each other down here at this point. I think they're going to do this in the next 24 to 48 hours. Really? And there's no loss in that for them. You know, evade when the enemy is stronger at this point. I think that's really what the decision that they're making.
Can we talk about the Wagner Group? Because they have been spearheading this push for Bakhmut. Can you explain to us their involvement here?
Yeah, they're mercenaries, about 50,000 troops we know in the Donbass region, 10,000 regular contractors, about 40,000 penal colony prisoners, people that have made this choice to come join the battle here because as opposed to sitting in a Russian penal colony, they're unbounded by the laws of land and warfare. Russia uses them for plausible deniability. They were first deployed back in 2014 in Crimea as the Little Green Men. They're not really warriors. Their head, Prigozhin, is a former caterer of Vladimir Putin. But here's the deal. We now see that he's now complaining about the situation in Bakhmut. He says they're not getting enough ammo. So he's now sensing a loss. He's sensing that they're not going to be able to hold it. And really, what they've done to the city's in rubble. It's in cinder. 4,500 left from what was 80,000 civilians. There's nothing left. They've really not gained any victory.
So since they're not bound by sort of traditional rules, is this why they're involved instead of Russian troops?
Well, they can't seem to muster enough Russian troops that want to do this fight. This is a suicide mission. Again, these frontal assaults here on locations in trench warfare with all the different obstacles. The Russian soldiers are smart. They recognize they're not going to survive those battles.
Thank you, Major Mike Lyons.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Good to see you this morning. Let's go straight to CNN's Melissa Bell live for us in Kyiv right now. Hello to you, Melissa. The fight has been going on for more than 7 months now. I'm wondering if Ukraine will be able to turn it around and keep the city.
I think they're aimed on is at this point just to hold it for as long as they can. And this is their tried and tested strategy. We've seen it in other towns in this war so far, although none at the heart of a battle this long yet. To try and hold on for as long as they can, whatever the cost to them, insofar as it wears down the Russian ability to continue waging this war, and whatever the cost.
Ukrainian forces giving all they can to defend Bakhmut, or what's left of it. After the longest battle of the war, one of the oldest cities in the Donbass lies in ruins.
There were no orders, no decisions were made regarding withdrawal from Bakhmut. There have been no tactical changes. We are holding the defense.
Abandoned by more than 90% of its population over the course of the 7-month siege, only those who couldn't leave before are left. The intense fighting means that only 5 to 10 people a day can now be evacuated, compared to the 500 to 600 a day when the evacuations started at the end of February, according to the city's deputy mayor. The Russians throwing all they have at the city, says the deputy mayor. Heavy artillery, mortar fire, airstrikes, and a substantial commitment of ground forces, both regular soldiers and Wagner mercenaries. But Russian advances have come at huge cost. Wave after wave of Russian soldiers have been sent to their deaths. And Ukraine has accused Russia of exaggerating its gains, claiming they still control one of the major highways into Bakhmut, a lifeline for Ukrainian defenders, with one Ukrainian commander tweeting that there are many ways still to get into the city. Analysts have questioned the strategic importance of Bakhmut, but that has not stopped Moscow's intense campaign to capture the city, nor Ukraine's existential fight to keep it. The unceasing barrage of artillery fire hasn't just killed or forced out most of the city's civilians, it's taken a huge toll on Ukrainian soldiers too, as the battle turns to close quarters street fighting. But Ukraine continues its fierce fight for victory, even as Russian forces continue to close in on a city that's already a byword for Ukrainian resilience on the battlefield.
What's most remarkable, maybe, Don, is that more than 100 years after the end of World War I, just how much this looks like some of the early battles of that war. Trench warfare, heavy artillery, and wave after wave of inexperienced soldiers on both sides being sent to their certain death. And it's happening in Europe again.